Good morning, boys and girls. Miss Katie coming back to read you another story. But before we get started with our story, let's do our yoga pose to calm our bodies like we do every day at school. Today's pose is the balloon. I have a picture of it here. And remember, with the balloon, we're going to breathe our air in with the chime and make our balloon bigger and bigger and bigger. Hold your breath in, breathe through your nose, and when the chime ends, slowly let the air out through your mouth. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Very good, boys and girls. Before we start our story, let's do our listening rules song. We'll start with eyes are watching, ears are listening, voices quiet, bodies calm. That is how we listen, that is how we listen at group time, at group time. Our story today is in honor of our fish that we renamed Miracle after she jumped out of the tank and was on the floor for a very long time before she was discovered. And the story is about a fish. Remember, we read this story right after that happened at school. And the name of the story is A Fish Out of Water. The author who wrote the words is Helen Palmer. However, the illustrator is P.D. Eastman. P.D. Eastman made the pictures in this book, but his name is Philip Day Eastman, and he wrote 2 other stories and illustrated them that we have read. 2 of them are You My Mother and The Best Nest, one of my favorite stories, and maybe we'll read that another time. Right now, let's find out what happens. There was that little boy, remember, that went to the pet store to buy a fish, and Mr. Carp, the pet store owner, told him some directions on how to take care of that fish. And did he listen? No, he did not. So something did happen, and we know. Let's read the story and see what it is. But before we read the story, I want you to do some things with me. If every time you hear the word in the story, you're going to say in your lap. And when you hear the word out, you're going to go out. If you hear the word up, up, and down, down. Those are spatial relationship words that we've worked on at school. They give us directions in space on where things are. So let's get ready. I may forget to do some of them, but you go ahead and do them through the story. So here we are. The little fish right there. I said to Mr. Carp, I want him. I like him and he likes me. And I'm going to call him Otto. That's a good name for a fish, isn't it? We never did get to vote on the name of our other 2 fish at school. So we'll have to do that sometime. We could send in a vote of names that we would like to use for those fish. Very well, said Mr. Carp. Now I will tell you how to feed him. Then Mr. Carp told me, when you feed a fish, never feed him a lot. Never feed him more than just a little spot, just a little bit and no more, or something may happen and you never know what. Remember, our marine biologist at school feeds our fish just a little bit each day. Then I took Otto home. I gave him some food, like Mr. Carp told me. I gave him a little bit, no more. I put it in there. But do you think Otto liked just a little bit? That little boy didn't think so. And remember, our fish at school, when we feed them or before we feed them, they're always coming to the top. They're always wanting more food, it looks like. Looks like they're hungry, but we don't give them a lot. We give them just that little bit and no more. So guess what? I gave him the whole box. All that fish food went in the fish bowl. Right in. Something happened. Remember what it was? He started to grow. He grew bigger and bigger, and soon he was too big for that fish bowl. So I had to find something else to put him in, remember? I put him in the flower pot. And it was big, but it wasn't big enough to hold him because, look, his tail was coming out of that pot. Oh, no, what am I going to find now to put him in? And I grabbed that flower bowl, and I ran with that flower bowl, and I found a big pot. And I put Otto in that big pot. But soon he was too big for that big pot, and I had to find something more. I put him in pot after pot after pot, but poor Otto, my poor little fish, just kept growing bigger and bigger and bigger. Oh, he was just growing too big so much, I didn't know what to do. Otto, stop growing, please. Please, Otto, you need to stop growing. I'm running out of pots. Otto had to have water. There was just one thing to do, and I did it. I grabbed him by the tail, and I ran with him up to the tub. The tub is big. It holds my mother, and it holds my father. It should hold Otto. Did it hold Otto? At last he's in the tub, but what happened? Do you remember? He grew bigger than the tub, and the water went all over the place. Look at the bathroom. Look at everything floating in the water. Oh, he just kept on growing. Oh, what was I going to do now? Then crash! The door went down, and crash! Otto went down, and I went down too. Oh, what a ride. Boom, 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 on those steps. Down in the water went Otto, down in the cellar. And I went down there too. I had to do something fast on my way. I grabbed the phone. Do you remember who he called? I called a police officer. I said, help, help. I fed my fish too much. Mr. Carp told me not to, but I did. What? Said the policeman. You fed him too much? Mr. Carp told you not to? Too bad. I will come at once. Here he comes. Look at him. Got to walk through all that water. He came, and the fish went that way, I said. My fish, he's down in the cellar. The police officer ran down with me, and he said, oh, what a fish. He is much too big to keep in a cellar. We will have to get him out. We had to work and work to get Otto out. Poor Otto. Oh, why did I feed him too much? Mr. Carp told me something would happen, and it did. It really did. Now we had Otto out of the cellar, but now Otto had no water at all. A fish has to have water, I said to the police officer. We must take him to water. Get help. Call for help on the radio. Remember, our fish had to have water. We needed to put Miracle back in the tank. The police officer called on the radio. He called for the fireman. Help, help, he said. A boy has fed a fish too much. A boy has fed a fish too much? We will come at once. Here comes the fire truck. The firemen came. They all helped to get Otto up. But where can we take him, I asked. Uptown? Downtown? Questions? To the pool, yelled the firefighter. To the pool, I yelled. And please hurry. They did hurry. The fire truck with Otto came right up to that pool. The firefighter yelled, everyone, out of the pool. This fish is going in. Look at everybody running out of the pool. They don't want to get hit by that big fish. Down in the pool went Otto with a big splash. Now I was happy. Now at last my Otto had water, lots of water. That big pool was just the thing. This big pool would hold him. Oh, but did it? You remember? Otto went right on growing. No one wanted Otto in that pool. You take that fish out of here, they yelled. They wanted to go back swimming, and Otto had the whole pool. There was just one thing to do, and I did it. I ran to the phone. Who did he call? Mr. Carp. Mr. Carp, please help me. I fed Otto too much. Oh, dear, said Mr. Carp, so you fed him too much. I knew you would. I always say don't, but you children always do. Yes, I will come. Then Mr. Carp came. He had a black box in his hand. He had a lot of other things, too. What are you going to do, Mr. Carp? I asked him. But Mr. Carp said nothing. He wouldn't talk at all. He just went right up to the pool. He took his black box with him and all the other things, too. Splash! Mr. Carp jumped into the pool. Look at all the people watching him. Splash! Now Otto went down too. All I could see was his tail. I could not see Mr. Carp at all. What was going on down there? What were they doing down there? Down there in the water. Oh, questions. Remember, for questions, we always look for answers. Let's find out what the answer is. Now I could see nothing. Not Otto, not Mr. Carp, nothing at all. Would I see my Otto again? Would I see Mr. Carp again? Mr. Carp! Mr. Carp! What are you doing? Are you all right? More questions. Then up jumped Mr. Carp. In his hand was a fish bowl, and in the bowl was my Otto. Mr. Carp had made him little again. Don't ask me how I did it, he said, but here's your fish. And he handed the fish to him. And from now on, said Mr. Carp, please don't feed him too much, just so much and no more. Now that is what I always do. Now I feed Otto just so much and no more, never more than a spot or something may happen. And now I know what. The end. Now, I want to tell you about our fish. Miracle and the other two fish have a temporary home. They are staying with Navy and Eiley. Navy and Eiley will be the marine biologists for now and take care of our fish, and they're doing a good job. Miracle's tail is growing back. The scales are growing back. Oh, that little fin is still too little, but she's using it, and she swims all over the place. So Eiley and Navy, please take good care of our fish, and we thank you so much for doing that. And remember, feed them just a little spot and no more, because you don't know what may happen. Or do you? Bye, boys and girls.